Thank you again to Standard Chartered for being our partner and supporting the conference today. So we're going to kick off the conference, and I would like to invite Captain Rajalingam Subramaniam, President and CEO of AET and Chief Operating Officer at MISC Group, to the stage, who will be giving one of our keynote interviews. Captain Rajalingam is a board member of several subsidiaries and joint venture companies within the MISC Group, and also serves as the industry in various appointments, including as ex-chairman of the Gas Tankers Committee of Intertanko, board member of the Guard P&I Club, committee chair of a number of class societies, and honorary commander of the Royal Malaysian Navy Reservist Program. Captain Rajalingam was also awarded the National Seafarer's Icon in 2017 by the Malaysia Marine Department, and in 2018, he was recognized by the Tanker Shipping and Trade Industry Leader Recognition. Interviewing Captain Rajalingam is Managing Director and Regional Head at Standard Chartered, Mr. Kheng Sin Chu. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Very much looking forward to the discussion. Kheng Sin, please.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi. Very good afternoon to everyone, and I'm very pleased to see many familiar and new faces for the event today. And I'm cognizant that we have time, so I want us to kind of get right into it. Firstly, Captain Raja, congratulations on your expanded role. You have helmed AET for almost a decade now, and now taking the reins of COO on a larger conglomerate. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I have to ask, let's start off with the elephant in the room, the crisis that's going on in Ukraine, which has been wreaking havoc. It's never a dull time in shipping, as we all know, but I wanted to get your views on what do you think the impact of the latest crisis that we're now facing, and what are you doing as AET and MISC in preparing or managing this?
Okay. Thanks, Kheng Sin. First, let me acknowledge the audience. We're in the midst of very distinguished, charismatic leadership group from across the maritime industry, and I feel so humble and honored to be amongst you. I feel so happy that, situation has improved, that we are able to meet face to face, and, welcome to Asia, welcome to Singapore for all our friends and colleagues who've flown in from abroad. I am conscious that there's actually two big maritime industry programs running at the moment, which is the Singapore Maritime Week and also the North Shipping in Europe, and it's just so good to see so many in the same room. I didn't know what I signed up for when my corporate comm said, okay, you got to say a few words, because doing things virtually over the last 2 years, I see a lot of faces, and I'm sure that there will be some Q&A coming along, which sometimes in a virtual program you have the defense of the monitor, right? Going in straight to the pandemic and the Ukraine-Russia conflict. First is the tragic human cost, both the pandemic and the conflict. And it is this tragic human cost which bears upon us in terms of these are things that we would have hoped would not have happened, right? And I just came back from Europe, and in my over the weekend in my cohort, there was actually a participant, a senior leader from the Ukrainian fraternity, banking fraternity, who moved out of Kyiv with her 2 kids and her mother. And her hubby is still a senior civil servant in the Ukrainian government, having to take arms, all right, as being inducted as part of the armed forces. And looking at some of the pictures that she was showing us, it's heartbreaking, right? And I hope that there will be some normality soon for everyone. And we've got friends on all sides of the borders, right? And we just hope that this comes to normalcy as soon as possible. Our thoughts and prayers to everyone directly and indirectly affected due to this pandemic and also the conflict. The economic sanction and funneled immediately after the pandemic, that we have faced. We all read the same news reports that that we read, and whilst our wish is that it's going to be for a shorter term, the inflation, the risk of stagflation, the risk of recession, etc. Though we would hope that it's for a shorter term, but it's quite clear that the sanctions are going to not go away. All right, it's quite clear that it's going to stay for long. And just like the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, and other economic forecasts has shown that what we would have hoped for in 2022, 2023 is definitely going to be a regression from what has been initially forecasted for. So that's the world that we are in at the moment. Then coming to the second question that you asked in terms of what we have been doing, both at an MISC group level and also for the entity that I'm directly accountable for in AET. It has been a busy 2.5 years, all right? And what I must say that it has been very purposeful and progressive in terms of what we have done. My finance team, though, because a large majority of the audience here are from the financing institution, right? My team has done very well in terms of raising close to about $1 billion of debt financing for all the 12 to 13 assets that we have either delivered or on delivery schedule over this year and next year. And I want to say thank you to all the partnership banks and financial institutions who has been with us, new and old. And it has been a busy period for us as far as that is concerned. So I'm happy to say all financing or refinancing has more or less been closed out during this period. On the progressive side, this is a time that we actually also on the sustainability, we've adopted 17 UN SDG goals, 17 UN SDGs, and on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, on the TCFD scenarios, etc. These are areas that we have progressively done quite well, in my view, to push the organization forward and making the talent in our organization, our board, and our shareholders more ESG competent in their knowledge and creating the conflict of ideas, creative conflict, for us to push management to move forward in those areas. So that's broadly. We've also done incubation of startups in Singapore together with BCGDV, 3 startups in Singapore on safety, decarbonization, and also space management. And we've also invested on an early stage startup in Switzerland for methane slip abatement technology, so that we want to incubate and co-create, and not just being a user, but also co-create for the industry. On the talent side, D&I, I'm personally a very committed person as far as D&I is concerned. The E in the middle is coming to fruition as well. We are an organization across all the three geographies. We've got nearly about 40 nationalities, give or take, about 12 of them, the predominant nationalities. Whilst we give diversity is due, and it's not just gender diversity. I'm proud to say that in my AET team, about half of my team members ashore are from the women gender, and about 1/3 of my middle management and senior management are women. But that is only one diversity angle. At the same time, in areas that we are developing new, like in Brazil, for example, I'm proud to say that the localization agenda is also important for us. And over the last 2 years, we have inducted talent from the industry, localization, plus also talent, existing talent from our organization. So that's a give or take what we have done over the last 2.5 years.
Thanks, Cap.
And Kheng Sin, to add, we do it because it's not convenient. We do it because it's the right thing to do, the longer-term game.
Thanks, Cap. I mean, personally, I do agree, and my deepest sympathies to those who are affected by the situation in the Ukraine. And I want to pick up on your last point that you said, not because it's easy, but because it's right, and focus a little bit on the talent situation that you're looking at. I mean, in the banking and finance sector, there's been a lot of talk about the Great Resignation, and likewise, given that we are at the Singapore Maritime Week, one of the key focuses is on managing talent and developing the right skill sets for the journey of decarbonization that industry is going through. I mean, we've heard about your D&I activities, but I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about, what are you seeing in this sector? What are the challenges that you're facing from AET, from MIC's perspective, and what are you doing in response to this?
Okay. Specific to talent, huh? Specific to talent, what we've done, like I said, the D&I agenda, what we do for the D&I agenda, and being more inclusive of the multi-generationals, being more inclusive in terms of thoughts, ideas, etc. We sit on, my team members, my leadership sits on D&I, sustainability groups, D&I advocacy groups, etc. But more importantly is the agility of the talent for the current, but purposing for the future. Right? That is something that I believe that we have done more purposefully, right? Understanding things, and just now I mentioned about making our talent ESG competent. HSC used to be the license to operate, ESG is the license to prosper and progress. Yeah? So making our talent more ESG competent in terms of the thought ideas that we put in, creating the avenues for discussions within our talent groups, creating that mix, because sometimes in order to develop, you also need to post them elsewhere, right? Doing that, and I'm proud to say that over the last 2 years, the number of scholarship and internship programs that we have rolled out throughout our 9-10 offices globally, by far has been the largest, right? Because we believe in developing talent, and it is not just developing talent for us, it's developing talent for the industry and for the future. So these are things that we have done more purposefully, right? And as an organization, we do not participate in job support schemes, etc., globally on our own. We believe that with the broad shoulders that we have, we should actually be giving back rather than taking on. And and I think Abhishek mentioned just now, except for the tanker industry, the rest of the what you call segments, right, have been doing much more profitable. Last year, the tanker industry went through its worst freight rates. Yeah, but I must say that my team members have done well in terms of turning a profitable number and cash balances, which is better through all the exercises that we have done. And with that, we've been able to give back. Like in Singapore, the job support scheme, it comes by default, right? And we give it back to society, and not a single cent goes on our balance sheet, on our accounting line or on our cash line. And then those are things that we do progressively for the organization.
Thanks, Cap. Thank you for kind of touching on the software that you're looking into, and I want to pivot into the hardware that you alluded to on the investments that you're making over the last couple of years with the backdrop of moving into a more uncertain world. We spoke many times in regards to your investments in dual fuel, as AET was the first mover in this space, and I picked up that yesterday AET made an announcement of investments in ammonia. I want to pick your brain on the decision to move from one dual fuel mix to the other. There's been a lot of debate on finding the right path suitable for you, and how can you share your mindset and how do you arrive at this decision?
Okay, all right. And coincidentally, I'm sure that most of us would have read the ICCP report yesterday, and relate back to what Mr. Antonio Guterres has boldly said about governments and business leaders saying one thing and doing another. I thought for a diplomat, that's a very strong statement coming from him, right? But coming closer to home, why did we do that, right? And we started our LNG dual fuel journey in 2017, right? With our first two Aframax dual fuel, right? And that was also closely after the previous ICCP report, which talks about the whether the 1.5 degrees pre-industrial is possible and what is probable in terms of trying to mitigate that. And this is my second tour of duty in Singapore over the last 17 years in a senior leadership position. And one of the pivotal moments was at what is that? That Marina Bay Sands. You have that. What do you call that? I forgot.
The bridge or the ship on top?
No, I forgot the name. Where you have the trees growing in the
Gardens by the Bay.
Gardens by the Bay. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I just got off an MIC board meeting and I had to excuse myself from the board meeting before the board meeting finishes. So sometimes the mind is still a little bit here and Gardens by the Bay. Yeah, my youngest son Vinod, he was in his early teens, and in there when you come down at your last stage there is this screen which talks about global warming, right? That impacted me in terms of what we are leaving for the next generation. So we should be part of the solution. And when we came to the idea of whether we need to incubate a dual fuel, right, mechanism, we said that because we also have LNG carriers, right? So we know transfer of technology is not going to be that difficult. We know that the world is long on gas, and everyone can say that this is a transition fuel. I personally believe that it is a fuel in transition because you can go bio, et cetera, right? And then we took our first leap. My board was very, very supportive. My shareholders were very, very supportive. We knew that being a first mover is going to not give us that commercial returns that we would expect from other asset classes. But with broad shoulders that we have, we said we're going to definitely make this leap. So we went on. So that is our stage. And then from there, we went on our shuttle tankers with dual fuel, LVOC. And then we've also delivered VLCCs, all right, with dual fuel as well. So all our petroleum asset classes has got that. And that's a proof of concept, which is saying that it's probable, it's doable, and we should not be kicking the can down the road, right? But that is not going to probably give us that solution until that 2030, all right, with sort of an aspiration and targets. What about 2050? I must give credit to my boss, Datu E, who came up together with like-minded leaders in the industry to give birth to the Castor Initiative. And under the Castor Initiative, it is where, and even DPM Kheng was mentioning about the Castor Initiative yesterday at the SMW opening, that collaboration partnership has to come into this. What you heard, what was reported today, and on what we announced yesterday on the ammonia dual fuel for VLCCs, all right, is drawing a line in the sand, saying by 2026 we would like to see this happen, all right. Scalability of ammonia, green ammonia, has been committed, but we're going to take that next leap because ammonia, in our opinion, is one of the pathways to achieve the 2050 decarbonization agenda. So the years of making our talent ESG competent, our board ESG competent, and our shareholders ESG competent helps us in moving. And I've got clients, financiers who are coming in and saying we want to be part of the solution. I've got to give big credit to our platinum clients, the energy majors, the financiers who've come on board and participated in the credit risk, and also participated in sharing on the commercial viability of the assets and being part of the ecosystem of solution. Solutions are there, all right? Opportunities are there. I know we do not want to make this into a sustainability or an E agenda in terms of what we can say. Everybody is talking about it, but stock is cheap. We've got to act now. With the ICCP report yesterday, I think it is very, very clear that the call for action is now and not later, right? And on another point that I want to make, even at the SMW opening, the panel discussion yesterday, I was surprised to see that the highest number of questions was actually in terms of we as leaders saying so much, but we are still building assets with a certain technology which is more polluting rather than more abating. So I thought that that sums it up well in terms of the questions that the audience is asking and what is highest on our agenda. And I call upon the leadership of the industry to rise up to the occasion and do what is right rather than what is convenient and waiting for something else to happen, waiting for the great to happen and negating the good. It is all possible solutions. I'm sorry if I stressed on this a bit too much, all right? I'm in the midst of distinguished audience here, charismatic, capable leaders. There's going to be multiple pathways in terms of maritime decarbonization. We've got to also appreciate that maritime transportation is the most energy efficient amongst all transportational models, and 80% of global trade is done through that. And we have to give due credit to our seafarers who've kept the global trade flowing throughout the pandemic, and I'm sure that they have gone through a much bigger risk and much bigger duress during this period.
We are running short of time. Thanks very much, Cap. That's very detailed insight to the journey that we've taken on. Maybe one last question before we end the session. Given that this is a maritime forum, you've called the industry to take action. What can financiers, bankers, investors in the room do? You had a front seat role in regards to the various challenges from different perspectives. Where do you see that gap, and what can we do as a sector, as one of the players in the sector to help owners and operators move to the next stage?
Thanks, Vincent. I must say that the banking and financing fraternity has done well, right? The Poseidon Principles, for example, is a very good start. In terms of being part of the solution, I see a lot more effort being put regionally, internationally, collaboratively, wanting to be part of the solution. And I want to give credit to everyone who has come on board onto that ecosystem. Big, huge effort. Well done. We need to move on to the next level, right? And in there, my question is the banking and financial fraternity interested only in participating in the credit risk? Do you also need to participate in the innovation risk? While the owners are taking, the risk on the operations, in the assets, in the designs, etc., which part of the ecosystem can you actually do better? Because at the end of the day, all major banks and financial institutions also have your net zero agenda. So how are you being part of that solution? I must say that the difference between the greener, and the less green in terms of the financing spread is unfortunately too low. It needs to broaden. Does it create a two-tier market? It should. Just like carbon tax has to come in, whether regionally or internationally administered, it has to come in. So significantly, the financial institutions, the banking industry has that big moral leap to also put through. I know, sometimes you've got to ask yourself, do you want to minimize risk, or would you rather minimize regret in future? Are you going to look at profit, bottom line, or are you going to look at people, planet, profit in that order of priority? So that's the question that I will put through to the distinguished audience here, and I'm sure you have the answer deep in your hearts.
Thank you, Cap. I think you've laid out the themes for today's panel's discussion, and I'll hand it over back to Andrew. But thank you again very much for your time and for your thoughts.
Thank you. And if I can just, are we going to have Q&A or we're out of time?
We have time for one question. Does anyone have a question?
Okay, and then I'll sum it up. I mean, just
raise your hand if you have a question. No. Sum it up then, Captain.
Okay. I mean, if I can sum it up, right, I will just say that it is a disrupted world at the moment, all right? And pandemic and the conflict, and even Myanmar, Syria, Afghanistan, etc., it just shows that we are seriously in a disrupted world. And in a disrupted world, we need more purposeful leadership, especially in a disrupted world. We need to up the game, and we need to stop giving excuses and say what is the right thing to do at the moment rather than what is convenient. I wish everyone a blessed meeting and panel discussion, and I look forward to participating in the panel. I wish Standard Chartered and the team all the best for the panel discussion, and welcome again. And I've been told by MPA, who has done a very good job actually over last couple of years, and they continue to do well. While you're here, try to spend some money as well to boost the economy. Thank you.